Yes to liking ourselves. Because remember, scriptures already tell us each one of us definitely love ourselves. It's our nature to love. And so in this journey to liking ourselves, we've been already focusing a little bit on this negative bias that we could potentially have, and working at evening out any kind of bias. One of the strongest negative biases we have is in the form of our own inner dialogue, and something called the inner critic. We've already touched on this in previous explanations, that sure, we have this aspect of ourselves which is critical, and it serves a purpose. Because if we've done something and then we look at it with a critical eye and we think, that can be done better, and it only takes 2 seconds to correct it. Like maybe we typed out something and then we didn't capitalize all the letters that needed to be before we sent that email, and it takes a few seconds, and then okay, now it's more professional, and then send. And it could even be in our grooming, and like if it's an important event, and then it's going to take a whole nother 5 minutes to go and iron the outfit so that we look a little bit more put together, but it's a professional event and we want to be looking our best, and okay, go and iron the outfit. And so the critic serves this purpose of us not giving in to our laziness, and not giving in to carelessness, and making sure that we really are living our game, our potential. But if we use our critic all the time, then it's overuse of this. And we are such creatures of habits that if we tend to do something repeatedly, it just becomes a habit. And so if our default setting is to go to critic, then it becomes a habit to go to critic. And so last week when we were exploring understanding ourselves, the activity was to hear all the different types of voices in our head, to know that we can use so many other voices. We don't have to only ever use our inner critic. And today we're going to focus more specifically on that inner critic and understanding a little bit about how to counter it. And so yesterday's activity was a little bit of a build-up to today's activity. Yesterday's activity was to seek gratitude in our past, to give us an understanding of how at that time we thought something was horrendous, and then potentially it wasn't horrendous, it was just maybe unpleasant. Of course, there were things in our past that would be horrendous, and we got through it. And sometimes when we got through it and at the other end, we're so much better off for it. Not only in feeling stronger and wiser, but also the relationships that we had, and the support that we had, and the things that we learned. So today when our critic starts talking, we're going to counter the critic. Yeah. The critic is powerful because it directs us into feeling bad. And if we've made it a habit to listen to it, then we've also made it a habit to feel bad. And interesting, we become comfortable with habits, even if they're not necessarily comfortable. Example. Sometimes we wear an outfit or a pair of shoes that aren't the most comfortable, but they're very fashionable. And so we wear them because we want to look good. And then we just get used to being uncomfortable. We can do this even in our thinking. We get used to feeling a certain way. And it's just because it became a habit. And so one of the ways to deal with the inner critic is to counter being comfortable with whatever it's telling us. And so choosing to feel good about ourselves, despite what the critic is saying. You're not smart enough, you're not good looking enough, you're not young enough, you're not thin enough, you're not humorous enough, you're not popular enough, you're not fashionable enough. And then whatever it is that the critic is telling us makes us feel a bit low and dejected, and we've gotten used to feeling this way. And so today it's like, no, I'm choosing to feel good. Not even necessarily about myself. Just, we can start, if it's helpful, just to feel good about the day I have today. And it's a beautiful day, and I'm going to feel good about today. And then when we get a bit stronger and we want to build up that ability to feel good, then I'm going to feel good about myself today. Even though I may not be perfect, and most of us are not, it's okay. I'm work in progress. Just like when we writing an assignment or an email, when we're working on a big project, when we're redecorating the house, it's not done yet, but for the stage at which I am at right now, I'm doing okay. I might even be doing well. And so in this journey of me working on myself, I'm not there yet. I get that I'm not there yet. But for where I am right now, I'm okay. I'm going to get better, but for right now, it's okay to be here. Because it is a journey after all. So choosing, when the critic starts its rant about all that's wrong, and saying, no, I choose to feel good. And it might sound like it's too simple to work, but firstly, it's not simple to do. In order to do it, we have to first be acutely aware of the inner critic, hear it, and then see how it's making us feel, and then here, consciously choose not to feel that. Not to give the critic the power to make you feel debilitated, despondent, depressed, weak, rejected, unwanted. Choosing, even though it's saying whatever it's saying, to feel good. Or to feel normal, at least, not rejected or criticized. And then, once we're feeling a bit better, once we're feeling a bit stronger, then we have to look at what the critic has said. And like with any criticism or insult that comes our way, the first thing we have to ask is it true? So if the critic says something like, "You're so dumb," usually it's to ourselves, "I'm so dumb." Is that true? No. Every single one of us has intelligence. And we might have made a few decisions that aren't the best, but the statement "I am dumb" as an absolute is not true at all points in time, and so it's not true. Sometimes I don't make the smartest decisions, but that doesn't make me dumb. And so I can only look at the critic and be able to question the truth and the validity of what the critic says when I feel a bit stronger. And so making ourselves feel a bit stronger to be able to look at the critic, not defensively, but objectively, openly. Look at what's said and then ask the question, is it true? And then if it is true, if the critic says, you're so lazy, then if I recognize that to be true, then we've already seen that the journey in self-like and the journey in self-love and the journey in our well-being is to be able to recognize something and then to be able to accept it and then to be able to initiate change. Yeah. If I want to, it's important to accept. This is true. I can see the validity of something. Okay, I have this shortcoming. I've made this mistake in this particular event. Accept. Acceptance is not beating myself up. Acceptance is not judgment. Acceptance is acknowledgement of something that is. Sky is blue, it is. Grass is green, it is. I made a mistake, it is. There's no overly emotion here. Acceptance is just the acknowledgement that something exists. And the reason that's so important is because without that acknowledgement and making peace of the fact that it exists, we cannot take the next step, which is to initiate change. If I see something I don't like and then I brush it under the carpet and then bulldoze ahead to try and be better, it's still there under the carpet. And so the accepting of it is the initiating of the transforming of it so that it no longer exists when I choose to initiate change. We never want to completely shut the inner critic. We just don't want it to be abusive. We certainly don't want it to be the only voice. And we certainly don't want it to become a habit. We want it to be constructive. And so to be strong enough to not let it weaken us and to be able to see it, hear it, take what I need to take from it, and let go what I don't need to take from it. So get to know your inner critic. Get to feel and recognize what you're feeling. And then make friends with it. Sometimes we have family members and friends who just love us so much and we feel so safe with them that when they tell us something, we don't automatically become defensive. We actually listen because we know they're saying it for our own good. We want to develop that kind of a relationship with our own inner critic. We want to be brave enough to be able to see what can be improved, and definitely we want to be brave enough to be actually able to improve it. Because we want to be this amazing person. The more amazing we determine ourselves to be, of course we're going to like ourselves. But listening, even when we don't like what they're saying, is part of love. It's part of understanding that that's how I grow, and love is about wanting us to grow. So, today's task is once again something you're going to have to take time out for and really spend a few moments introspecting, seeing clearly, and being brave. you can.